Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Monday. Well, man, on Friday, some crazy stuff happened. Let me tell you all about it. Let's come to the charts over here. Okay, so on Friday, Donald Trump tweeted some angry things at China. Because China was ready to put export controls on all rare earth minerals, and they were like working with other countries to undermine the U.S. The S&P took it very hard. Man, we have to come back and look at that on like a day basis. Pretty bad. Interestingly enough, only down to the 200-day moving average. Isn't that crazy? Only down to the 200-day moving average. Okay. And the ATR stop. So we're probably getting a ton of mean revision in here because apparently the whole thing was just a misunderstanding. The whole thing was a misunderstanding. Apparently they weren't gonna prevent them from exporting it. It was just they were gonna, they were gonna say, oh, you have to apply, and then they were gonna approve all of the claims, something like that. So, anyways, S&P took a big down. The Treasuries, interestingly enough, I mean, they moved to new highs, but not that high. Not that high. So that's kind of interesting. Now here this morning, they're actually kind of up again. So I might need to come in here and check things. Here's oil. Oil taking a plunge. Gold and silver pushing higher, of course. Whew. And copper also taking a hit there. You got to realize, things are not necessarily going very well in China lately. So I think there is a lot of question about copper still. Japanese yen, well, up a little bit. A little bit. There's still some drama going on over there. I don't really understand what's going on. And Bitcoin. Bitcoin really took a hit. So the funny thing with Bitcoin is this was like the biggest liquidation event ever, which is always the biggest liquidation event ever in Bitcoin, isn't it? But they didn't. It looks like, at least in the futures, that they didn't pierce these lows down here. So, was it like that bad? Was it that bad? I don't know. That's basically where we're at. Yeah, misunderstanding whichever excuse immediately works. Well, no, I actually have some reporting that says that it was absolutely a misunderstanding. So I think it's so funny, guys. Like, the internet will form a narrative about something, especially the people on Reddit. And even though they have absolutely zero evidence to support that narrative, they will just run with it. And even when that narrative is proven completely false, they will continue to stick to it. It's the craziest thing. I guess I shouldn't be mad about it because it can provide trading opportunities for us. But in this particular case, right, they want to make it out to be Donald Trump is bad. So they had this whole thing. Oh, Donald Trump is being crazy. And then it's just the taco trade, right? He's going to chicken out and immediately backtrack. And that's essentially like a few days later, that's what he did. But the reporting that I've seen says that it was really, truly a complete misunderstanding, which in my opinion makes the Trump administration look worse. Because basically what happened was China was saying that they were going to put export controls on rare earth minerals, but it wasn't like they weren't going to allow any rare earth minerals out. It was just that people were going to have to apply for a exclusion of some sort, and they were going to approve all of them. The Trump administration thought that it was this conspiracy that all of a sudden on the 1st of November, all rare earth minerals would not be able to be exported out of China. And it would be like this big drop to try and crush the US economy. And that's why he was reacting and saying stuff on Twitter and everything. Well, I suppose could be that they were going to, and because Trump found out, they backtracked. I suppose that could be true too. But the reporting that I've seen on this suggests that it was like completely a misunderstanding, and that's why the Chinese were immediately like, oh, no, that's not what it was, and then Trump backed off. And he said she just had a bad moment, right? So now, I think that this kind of puts us for today in a difficult spot, because you do get the thing where a volatility tends to cluster, but they're absolutely going to mean revert and try and pretend like this never happened. So, you've kind of got like a high volatility, but volatility contracting kind of a situation, which can lead to some difficult scalping. Although with our numbers, it might be interesting. But then the other part of that is, well, we should be expecting the S&P 500 to be recovering the drop, and it isn't, and the treasuries are still up. So first thing is, let me come in here and just double check there's not any new headlines. Oh, Hamas did release all of the hostages. Wow. I feel so warm and fuzzy right now. It's kind of funny to... Oh, you're right. The bond market is closed, Ninja Ape. You're right. Why did I not remember that? I don't remember what is the holiday that it is. I remember that it was a bank holiday, though. Bank holiday... Columbus... Oh, of course, yeah, Columbus Day. Oh, Columbus Day. No, it's Columbus Day again. It was Trump made an official proclamation or whatever, changing it back to Columbus Day. To be honest with you, I don't understand why some people are so uppity about continuing to call it Columbus Day, but... Okay, now going back, Uzi says someone made a bunch of money on a juicy insider trade. Yes, in the Bitcoin market. So I was a little bit like... This is one that also kind of... I don't understand why people haven't figured it out yet. Like, every time this happens, there's like, oh, there was insider trading, and everybody on Reddit gets super upset. But like, has anybody ever been prosecuted about it? Right? Like, how can that happen so many times and nobody ever gets prosecuted from it? By the way, it happened during the Biden administration too. I'll tell you why. Because it's not illegal. Let me tell you something. So I'm going to tell you something that I probably shouldn't tell you. But I'm going to tell you, okay? When I worked at the bank, there was situations where they knew data before it came out. And they had rules based on what the piece of information was and what instrument it was, whether you could trade before it or not. So there were situations where they had been given the heads up on a particular thing, and nobody was allowed to touch anything until that headline had come out. Okay. So banks get tips all the time, and they know the rules. They know, like, well, I can do this. Like if it's a government thing, then it's public information and they can trade it in the FX futures. Whereas if they get crossed, and they're given like a data point or something like that, that's like super no. You can't have like an official government report before everybody else. That's super no, right? So then you have to report that. Nobody can trade. So if it's in Bitcoin and it's public information, that Donald Trump is going to tweet something as public information, believe it or not, it's not illegal. As far as I can tell, I mean, it is a little bit in the legal gray zone. Don't let me, it's not all completely black and white. There's like this gray zone there. And I'm going to bet you that if they found out who that guy that made that crypto transaction was, and they tried to prosecute him, that they wouldn't be able to get a conviction. This specific trade, not illegal, is in my understanding the rules. Well, trading early is illegal. Trading 0.0001 seconds after it comes out is completely illegal. Well, okay, so if you had like the non-farms payroll before it came out, then yeah, you definitely shouldn't trade it until after the news has come out. That's why banks hate it when they get a tip like that, because on tips on the illegal ones, right? Or a company's earnings. That's another one. Company's earnings. In fact, I think in that case, if they have positions, they have to take them off. Yeah. But I'm telling you, like, it's different now because we have cryptocurrencies and people are paying attention to cryptocurrencies and yada, yada, yada. But this always happens. Like, there's never been a time in my life where this hasn't happened. It's just they used to do them as Forex trades. So it's one of the reasons why I say wouldn't recommend trading Forex, because you can get these crazy moves out of nowhere and you will have no clue what's going on. Because it's insiders. They trade the currencies. Serious. Yep. That's standard. If you were a huge whale and had top 5 prime broker client, you will get tips. Yeah. It's 100%. So it's just funny to me that the larger internet doesn't understand this. Freaks out every time that somebody made money. Well, the reason I harp on this one with you guys, because honestly, if I go and I post about it on Reddit, like, you're gonna get downvoted so hard. Like, you will get downvoted so fast. It's hilarious. And if I posted something about it on TikTok, I think most people would not care. But for you guys, I think it's important because I think it's the underlying belief about the way markets should be is the problem, I think, there, right? I think that underlying belief that, like, nobody should be able to make money on information that they have and other people don't. The idea that it should be a completely level playing field and everybody should have access to the same information. All of the information is already priced into the stocks, so there's no way to make money from that. That attitude, I think, hurts retail traders more than almost anything else. Once you understand that from a day trading basis, the most powerful edge you can have is knowing things that other people don't. And it would presumably be public information that's out there. I mean, how did you find the information? It's probably going to be you piecing together things from multiple data sources and realizing, oh, X thing is going on, and taking a trade bot based off of that. And that can be your single greatest edge. And that is the most dominant force on an intraday basis. Almost everything else that people are trying to do on an intraday basis is probably nonsense. People only complain because it does not happen to them. I mean, if I knew that the President Trump was going to tweet about a trade war thing, I would totally go and trade on it. Wouldn't be able to do such a big trade, but I would totally trade on it. Now, at the same time, another thing to keep in mind, though, is that people are placing monster trades all the time. Sometimes, whenever there's a big move like that, at least one person will have gotten lucky. I think this one is a little more suspicious because it was like a brand new account, but still, there'll always be at least one. I'm telling you. I don't think I've ever, like, since I've been trading, I don't think I've ever seen a case where there was like a really, really big market moving headline that moved coming from the government, and there wasn't somebody that was ahead of it. Yeah, like it's like the ES liquidation on Friday. There was a huge possibility that a correction will happen. Yeah. Yeah, so now that is kind of interesting, going back to what we were looking about on our 30-minute charts, is that the S&P 500 just got completely slaughtered, and the Treasuries didn't actually move up that much. So that says to me that a lot of the fall in the S&P 500 was just because it was primed for it. It's kind of funny because I actually think it may be the case that drop on Friday happening kind of extends the market's life. You know what I mean? Like, now all of the speculation and the dangerous trades have been washed out of the market. We survived, and now they can all go long again. Right? Because I've been worried that, like, the market's vulnerable here, and then we're going to get like an economic headline that helps makes us realize that we really are going to go into a recession, and it's just going to be a complete bloodbath, you know? I think a good idea on why it happens all the time but isn't noticed much is because many people aren't watching all the time, and they just see the insider moves after such from big creators because it's a big move, and then everybody knows about that. Yeah. Anyways, so now since we've been talking, the Treasuries have come back down to the other side of the range. So I'm thinking so there's a pretty big cluster at 0.5. So I'm surprised that they seem to be having a slight bit of difficulty touching that, but I think that they will touch that. And then the next step down from that is 112.30. But I don't know, where would our volatility projections put us at, because it might be for that 30 area. And I don't know if a trade short here makes sense. Give me the picture. Give me the picture. Uzi asks if you want numbers or an image on the volatility projections. It's all inventory. People need to offload their positions because there's not new money, and smart, well-funded traders sold with them. Simple. Yeah. Do you understand? The market exists so that the people with the money and the people with the information can trade on it. That's my theory for why there's not really any discernible technical edge on time periods of 1 minute to 1 hour. Oh, that's the wrong one. ZN right there. Okay. Well, so the next step down is like at the overnight lows. Interestingly enough. At 30. 30 and then 24-ish. Let's say 23. I think 30 on the downside is a good play. But then we have to, why is the 10-year still up? I would think, yeah, I would think that there would have been more overnight action to the downside. So there's got to be some other risk that I'm not aware of. Or it could be that it's a bank holiday. Maybe the bank holiday is all the explanation that we need. Palestinians returning to Gaza City find indescribable destruction and no life to rebuild. Yeah, they completely decimated that place. But that's okay, because they're going to put a ton of money. They're going to put a ton of money into Gaza. It's going to be wild how they rebuild Gaza. I'm browsing Reddit here. Have you seen this? They're calling it Colorgate stuff now with Hassan. I wasn't paying too much attention to it at first, but it's really wild to me to watch it. I'm kind of sitting here like, you know what I need to do is I need to be a leftist content creator so that I can have these zealots that will come and defend me on practically everything, no matter how stupid I'm being. Because, like, really, that story is wild. Yeah, this is going to be a tough day. I couldn't imagine zapping my dog to keep it in frame while I stream. Yeah, so like the thing that is wild about it to me is, okay, so for those of you that don't know, Hassan is being accused of using a electric dog collar to zap his dog. And in the video, you can see him go and reach for something off screen, and then the dog kind of yelps and goes back to the bed. And like, here's the thing. Okay, I don't think that a zapping dog collar is necessarily like always super bad thing. Like, especially bark collar. Man, some dogs they bark and it's gonna cause all of the neighbors to hate you, and shock collar is probably the solution. Okay, but the thing that's crazy about it to me is that he expects that dog to just sit on that bed for hours on end. That he doesn't want the dog going out into the rest of the house without him. That just like makes my head hurt. Trying to understand how anybody can justify it. Because they're saying like, oh, it's not actually a zapping dog collar. They're saying it was just vibration, and you guys are all, like, faking things and all. But you can go and you can see, like, he has a dog in the back there all the time, and if it gets off of the bed at all, he freaks out. Like, that is just, there is absolutely no way. How does he get that dog to stay on that bed? Because my dogs, there's no way. They wouldn't last more than 30 seconds. No, let alone all day in the background. What? That's crazy. That's crazy. How do people defend that? I don't get it. Yeah, like, I don't get it. I have 3 huskies and they're all so used to me being on the computer for 3.5 hours a day. They all just lay around us. Yeah. I get. He seems like a child to me. but man, it's crazy. I've seen some creators talking about it, and then they're getting like death threats and stuff. Like the mob comes after them. It's wild. It's crazy. And you know what's also crazy to me on all of this, because I straight up, I will not stream on Twitch until Hassan is gone. I think that they have ruined that platform, and refusing to ban him is like one of the primary destructive factors on that website. I think the other one was allowing the hot tub streams to go on for so long, but he is like he at times straight up encourages violence, and it seems to me like his fan base is violent. You know why Destiny got banned? It wasn't because of anything that he said on stream. It was because he had a spat with another creator, and some of his fans were like sending death threats and stuff. That's why Destiny got banned. So it's like crazy to me they haven't banned Hassan, because he's done way worse things. He lays up behind me against the wall, and as soon as he hears the click patterns and PC sounds of programs shutting down, he springs up and gallops to the front. That's funny. I saw this video the other day of a husky meeting a little infant. Oh, it was so cute. He was so quiet and gentle. It was a big husky too. Man, those things can get burly. By the way, do you know anything about this? Apparently, like husky fur, or a certain kind of husky fur, is like the softest fur in the world, and they make like clothing out of it. So I saw this thing, and they were like talking about luxury furs, you know, they're like, here's cashmere, here's white cashmere, and they had some measurement of like the size of the fibers or something like that determined how soft they were. And then this husky fur was like way above and beyond all the others. So I'm sitting there like, so should I be buying husky t-shirts? Like, what is it? Bunnies and chinchilla. I don't know if you could make wool out of chinchillas though, man. Because I for Christmas, I got an alpaca blanket, and you know, it's threaded like wool, that particular thing is. So you wouldn't expect it to be soft, and there's definitely a texture to it that's not smooth. But the thermal properties of it are amazing, and I just prefer that blanket to anything else. So anything else you get too hot, but that blanket, it'll get you to right the perfect temperature. It's kind of funny when we were pushing down. I was like, okay, so should I be looking for shorts? I don't know. I left it alone. It hasn't gone anywhere. Oh, maybe he is. Okay, so the other last thing about Hassan, and then I'll stop. The other wild thing, so here's a thing. Pokimane and Lily Pichu canceled their scheduled podcast video featuring Hassan. So like calling for the death of business owners is okay. But forcing your dog to sit in the corner, that's the thing that we have to cancel them about. Don't abuse your dog. Don't abuse your dog. They will come. That'll get you canceled. In the United States, that'll get you canceled. I wouldn't think, given the bank holiday, they would push much in the way of volatility projections. Yeah, maybe you're right. I think it's bad that he uses a shock collar to keep... It is bad. But I don't think I can prove that he's using a shock collar. Even though it seems like he is. But they can argue that one. Keeping your dog in frame, that is so messed up. But I also think that like saying, why isn't anybody killing these people? I also think that that's wrong. I thought they already identified the brand. Well, so Hassan was... So here's the other weird thing, and I can't keep up with all this shit. Is that like they said that it was a shock collar, and they think that they identified the brand, and then he showed the collar, but he had like stickers and stuff on it so that people couldn't see what brand it was, and he claimed that it was just a vibration, and it was just a vibration collar. And I've seen some of that, and so it sounds to me like he has kind of like moved the goalposts a couple of times. Like he said, no, it didn't do anything like that. Oh no, actually it's a vibration collar. Actually now it is just a shock collar. The training we use is a shock collar. But I can't keep up. Like I only see stuff on Livestream fail. I can't keep up with like, is what I'm seeing just claims from people, or you know what I mean? So that's why I'm kind of taking like the cautious route here. Like I don't know if I can prove that it's a shock collar, but I think that you can prove that he tries to keep the dog in frame and basically treats it like a set piece. Yeah, he doesn't deserve to die over it, but it's a crappy things to do. I mean, in all my years watching people on YouTube, the stuff I've seen, I'm surprised anyone can genuinely believe streamers aren't inherently bad people, especially if they're really popular. Yeah, I kind of wonder, man. So going into, I've already said plenty of things that I'm like, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. But like, man, the place that I've been working, like the way that they really did their best to do me dirty, I think, man. Like, well, when I think back on it, it's basically like they've been spending the past 6 months trying to figure out how to hire somebody cheaper. That was really wild when I think about it. And I think a major factor behind how they've made all of their money is because they're importing cheap electronic goods from overseas. So I guess it shouldn't surprise me that they're doing that, but it's just kind of like, but you know what? If you're a large business and you don't do those sorts of things, you're not going to be competitive. And so it very much does seem to me that when you look at the people that are like the most popular on streaming particular, I wouldn't say it's always the case with people that are popular on YouTube, but especially when you get to the people that are like popular on streaming, like the way that they're popular is they're not 100% genuine with people, right? That's the only way that you can appeal to a large enough audience of people. And as Hassan in particular was preying on people's political proclivities. I go, why can't the left have like popular thought leaders over there that are good people and actually know what they're talking about? Ezra Klein, I guess, but the leftists were going after Ezra Klein too. Because he said, hey guys, maybe like don't say crazy things so that we can get elected, and they got all super pissed off at him. Son isn't even good at politics. I haven't heard much about Vaush lately, but despite my vehement disagreement with them, that dude was like a big think dude. I don't know who you're talking about. Son is like putting politics on a Kindle. Well, I honestly kind of wonder, like, is the reason why Hassan and Destiny became the biggest political people in streaming was because of how radical they were? So I look at conservative circles, because conservatives have really built an ecosystem. A lot of it revolves around the Daily Wire. It seems like what Ben Shapiro has done with is pretty impressive. But when I look at the Republican ecosystem, the deficiency that I see over there is the economics. Right? Like, I feel like that so many of these people on the right just really do not understand the economic system. I think there's a lot of, we bought into a story in the 80s about why capitalism is successful that is wrong. Basically, the reason why capitalism is successful is because financial markets are an information transfer mechanism, and not because it always selects the most optimal option. That's something that we're really going to have to learn and understand in order for the United States to meet the next level of prosperity, I think, because we're making so many inefficient decisions along the way. Like coming in and saying, oh, I'm going to, spend months and months and months trying to avoid paying to get somebody an extra $15,000. Like, think about the number of man hours wasted, and then like you're not going to get the expertise. I don't think that they're making the best decision there, but the system kind of encourages that. Right, so it's not because the market is perfect or makes the right decision all the time. It's that the bottlenecks created by like supply and demand disruptions are so big that being able to share that information on a market avoids those bottlenecks, and that's what allows the prosperity. Right. So, I could I feel like I would have something to contribute to conservative like news networks and stuff on the economics side, but they would never go for it because what you have to say to appeal to the far right conservatives on economics is that like the market is always perfect and we should be on a gold standard. Like, I feel like I'm a real conservative in that I take it as an approach to change. Conservatism is an approach to change, and we hold some reverence for the things that have worked and has built our society to what it is today. And our monetary system and the Federal Reserve has been around for 100 years now, and it has been extremely effective. And it's like wanting to go back to something 100 years ago that never really worked. That's not conservatism. That's just stupid, in my opinion. Right? But the whole point is that it seems like to really get up there, you kind of have to be saying crazy things. And I don't want to say crazy. Destiny's the last guy for whom being edgy still works. Ugh. I'm so done with that guy. If he shows up on my my TikTok feed, I immediately scroll on as fast as I possibly can. Your job is probably wanting you to build the framework so they can, yeah. I mean, I think that so from my perspective, I'm not going to complain about getting paid for 6 months. You know what I mean? But they're like, oh, you know, well, like, sorry it didn't work out. Hope we'll see you in the future. It's like, oh no. you really think that you're gonna do that to me? And you know, like maybe a year from now when they need me again, I'm gonna come back? Oh no. And I don't know, like putting contract work on your resume, does that look bad or does that hurt or help? I don't know. Yeah, it ends Wednesday. So that's the other. So yeah, the full story is, I wanted one, or they were paying me one rate, right? And which, you know, is actually, it's even higher than that because there's the overhead for the contracting, right? For the person that I'm contracting through. Then they had a range that I knew was lower than what I wanted. So they came, you know, I did a good job, and then they came in to the time for them to offer me a job, and they offered me the lower end of the range, which was 40% below what I was looking for. 40%. And by the way, what I look for is like, if there is any listing on LinkedIn that has a range posted, it's around this range. Okay. All of the SRE jobs are 150. Okay. So then when I said no, they spent the next 3 months trying to replace me. And I think part of it was that my boss did not like that and didn't completely play along and said that they couldn't find anybody that knew how to do the job. So then they came and they offered me the higher end of their range, which was still $15,000 or 10-20% lower than my target. So then they just kept looking, and they got a new guy in, and the new guy immediately went and hired somebody else. And then as soon as they had somebody else, you know, here 1-2 weeks before the contract would be up, then they said, oh yeah, we're not gonna give you another offer because we, right? They didn't say that they found somebody cheaper, but I found out that they found somebody cheaper. So, yeah, that's what happened. I just feel like it's a pretty shitty, like, way to do business, don't you think? Like, I understand you want to get it. And maybe it was just that I was overqualified for it. Like you were saying, like your job is to come in and build the framework so that they can get somebody to cheap. Yeah, I think to some extent that's fine because I did good work and I'm proud of it, and they can use that for a long time. Something happens, an application breaks or something, I think it's going to be painful. But ultimately. It was, I worked for the bank. I don't know how I got into the bank, but I did, and I did it, you know, was something that I should be proud of. You know, I do, and I did work hard in school and on all of those things, and I've always worked hard for things. When I left the bank, I felt like, you know, this was like just way too much stress for what I was getting. So I found a place where I was still working at a relatively large corporation. But it didn't have to be so crazy. And I stayed there for a long time because it worked really well with my schedule and with the stream. But I think the reality was it wasn't like living up to my full potential per se. You know, like I was taking something that was a little less stressful because I didn't feel like it was worth it. And then I kind of started to get tired of that because I could see that like I should be further ahead than I am. And so I did that and I moved. And I think that one was just kind of a strategic, well, I wouldn't even call it a strategic mistake, but basically I went over to a company that was going to be at the front line of the economy falling apart, right? So that didn't work very well. And then I come here to this one, and with this one, by that point, I feel like that this is where I really like got things optimized and everything to where I can just sit in and focus immediately and get things done. And I just did that the whole time, and I worked really, really hard. And like, what is the reward for that? Nothing. I should have gone slower so that they had more things still to do so that they would feel more inclined to keep a senior engineer on, you know, like, and the frustrating thing about it is that I doubt it's going to be better anywhere else, you know. If you were on the trading floor and you played some sort of shenanigans with people, they're going to remember you, and then they're just never going to trade with you again. You know? And I think for the longest time, that was one of the things keeping corporations in line. And what has happened is everything has become so national and the labor pool so big that you can basically screw everybody over, and there's still this endless pool of people that will still come and work for you. And then since everybody's doing it, what are you going to do? You can't just cut out the people that are acting shitty, because everybody's acting shitty. You know? Yeah, as you get older, you always become. So then there's this other thing, which is like you work really, really hard, and then like by 40, you're too old. Like what? That to me is crazy. You're supposed to come in and work really, really hard so that you can retire, and then they're gonna screw you over halfway through. I did. I went I used Claude to go through all of my notes, because I keep notes about what I did every day. I was really good at keeping the notes. So it went and summarized all of my notes and had like a list of accomplishments and everything, and I went and saved it so that I'll have it. So it was actually really cool. Like when I read through it, like I had it write a case study and some other things, and I was like, wow, this is really impressive, Seth. Still. I feel like I kind of maybe got deeper into this than maybe I wanted to, but yeah, it ends Wednesday. So that means that we should get more time to make videos and stuff again. Oh. So part of the issue that happened before was that, my wife was working and then I was watching the kids, and so I didn't really have any time to do anything. But that was mostly a factor of having to watch both of the boys. Azure has kindergarten. So I can set Ethan up at the table over there, give him the laptop or something like that, and hope that he is, content enough to do that. while I work on the computer. Yeah. We have a Seth Holiday stream and stream all trading day. But well, so I have thought like, oh, maybe we should stream until the stock market closes. But I don't know if that would really make much of a difference unless I had stock order flow up, you know. So, I guess I will make some videos and I will work on the trading platform. Last time I kind of cleaned up the indicators a bit, so I got those major issues with the indicators fixed. But I don't know, I don't really feel like that got me anywhere. So maybe I should just work on the trading platform and videos. The videos didn't really get me anywhere either. I don't know. If I have the time, I think I'm going to just edit the video and do it all myself. Because I also don't feel like that the video editor really helped, even though I think he did an okay job. And I have had some job prospects. I actually have 3, I don't know interviews, but 3 going right now. So maybe it's not as bad. I'm gonna go Kubernetes when you know what, Brett? So can I rant about Kubernetes for a second, man? Kubernetes is really cool, and I think that there's a really good use case for it. But I also feel that in some respects, it's kind of already behind. And 1 and 2. I think that most of the people using it don't really actually need to be using it. So what do I mean by that? So in infrastructure and cloud engineering work, we have something called Terraform. And what Terraform does is it says, here's your code. This is the state that you want things to be in. Here is the state that things were the last time that you ran the code. And here is the state of the actual resources out in the cloud, right? So that way, when I make a resource, it's stored in my state, and then I can go and look at the state of that thing now and say, oh, there's been drift, it's changed, I'll change it back, right? Or maybe I just need to completely get rid of that resource and destroy it and create a new one because there's too many changes that I'm making in the code. And Terraform just sorts all of that stuff out for you. And if you do things right, it's even able to say like, oh, I need to remake this object, but this is dependent on that, and this is dependent on that. So I have to remake all of these things, right? State management. And Kubernetes basically doesn't play very well with the state management. Like you can manage Kubernetes with Terraform, but it's kind of janky. I've never done it, but my understanding is kind of janky and it doesn't work very well. There's another application called Argo CI/CD that is better for that. But this is like that's kind of the state of things over there, right? And so what they really need is they need HashiCorp Kubernetes, right? They need a Kubernetes designed from the ground up with those principles in mind from the beginning. Right. Okay. Well, so why would you use Kubernetes? Well, the reason you use Kubernetes is because you can come in and do things programmatically. So you have complete flexibility on how things are routed when you scale up and scale down and how you utilize the compute that you've got available for you. Okay. No, I did not turn the bot on, and I think that I will not turn it on because it's a bank holiday. Otherwise, it probably would have taken a bunch of stupid trades. Actually, I don't know if it would have taken one. Anyways, most people, you just go in and you make an ECS cluster. Make a service in an ECS cluster, and that's all you need. Why go through all of this extra work for Kubernetes? Because it's cool. Like, I feel like that the only people that should really need to use Kubernetes is like Google, you know? Whatever. Whatever. I've used it. I know how to use it. You can make a lot of money with it, so why not? But I do think one of the projects I got to do here is set up. I think I'm going to set up my own GitHub repository on my K3 cluster. And host my code there. Like I have it on, well, I don't know. I have it on GitHub, but because it's a private GitHub, I can't really share it with you. And I would like to work with it. I don't know. I feel like so the issue that I'm dealing with is that it's just a crapshoot out there, man. There are so many people applying to the jobs, even qualified people applying to the jobs, that it's really a luck of the draw in many instances. And it could be many, many months before I'm able to find work again. And, you know, they're going to reduce interest rates a little bit, so that'll help probably a little bit. But if we don't have a recession, probably continues to be really tight in tech for a long time. And if we do have a recession, that means that things get even worse before they get better, and you're still talking about several years, right? So, like, nobody's coming to save you. Not Donald Trump, not Kamala Harris, not Elon Musk, and certainly not Sam Altman or Jerome Powell. So what do? You gotta do your own stuff? I would think that there's got to be enough people out there out of work and free to build some stuff. Make your own business. To bootstrap it from your labor. But I don't really see many places or people talking about that sort of thing. So I don't know. Everything is starting to require certs. Maybe you're right. Maybe. So do I need... so this was another thing that I've been going on. Is there's a AWS professional DevOps, or AWS DevOps professional, and then there's AWS architect professional. And it seems to me like what I'm most interested in should be AWS architect. But then are the SRE jobs out there wanting DevOps professional? I don't know. Or like, I need the Kubernetes cert because so many people are doing Kubernetes. Nah, you're competing against the world. 1 billion people are now able to apply for American jobs. Yeah. I want to promote getting off the cloud. I don't know about that one, man. I feel like for a large company that running your own on-prem is not actually cheaper than the cloud. But the cloud ends up being so expensive because you don't do it right. Right? You say, push it onto the cloud. It doesn't matter how you do it, just to get it up there. And now that things are tight, actually it does matter. And they realize that they've done so many dumb things that it just costs way more than it needs to. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about something else. Everything requires certs. Yeah. Okay. The whole SSL certs thing it is kind of annoying, isn't it? Because for some reason, every application the amount of setup that's required to do SSL is like 10 times more complicated. And you'd think that it should just be like you just flip a switch and then it'll work, but it's never like that. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that on terms of like the competition for the jobs, you know, a lot of companies are nearshoring. Most of the jobs that I've been applying to, though, they want somebody on premise. So I don't know, man. I don't know how big of a contributing factor that is. There's no way to know. It seems to me that there are enough people just out in the market. It's kind of wild to think about, like, when we were in the period where computer science grads were just in such high demand and they could demand almost anything they wanted, you know? I don't think that the amount of undersupply was actually that much. Like, it doesn't take very much for it to get crazy. So but it's rough out there. I don't know what I'm gonna do, guys. I really hope that we find something else quick. I would really like, by the way, you know, like contracts like that. Like, I would love to do another 3 to 6 month contract, and I would love to like build it up to be where like I have multiple people and they're contracting to me and all this. It seems like you get like that is a better pay in the end if you're willing to do the contract work and you have all of the organized. But I think the problem is that you need like the contacts and stuff like that. And where are you going to find the work? Because I think overall there is just less work out there, even if you were just contracting. At the same time, I think that like the applying process has been going better than last time. So maybe I'm just so traumatized from last time around, right, that I'm getting all geared up for another hard, long battle, and next I'll already have something by next week. I hope. I only hope. But in the meantime, I'm going to do the Cloud Architect course. I'm going to build our trading platform. See how far I can get on the trading platform. And hopefully Ethan will cooperate. He's probably not going to cooperate. He's going to be like, no, I want to draw. He likes to use the Epic pen, draw all over the screen. I have to do something about that. Sam Altman says AI will make most jobs not real work soon. So here's a thought. I think that one could argue that we already kind of have a mechanism in our economy for dealing with people being out of like UBI, Universal Basic Income. And it is lowering interest rates and flooding the system with money. Lower interest rates, you flood the system with money, and people start up new businesses, and then there's jobs for people. That's how it works, right? Okay. What if Federal Reserve lowers interest rates, floods the market with cash, and instead of using that cash to make new jobs, they put it all into compute? Now we have a real problem, don't we? Now we have something where the economy is down and there's nowhere to save it. You're going to have to start putting stipulations on the money. And have to put a stipulation like, we're only going to give you this loan if it means that X people get employed from it. And the multiple, like how much money goes in versus how many jobs you get out, becomes even more critical. And if they don't need it, if they can just put it into compute, then doesn't that kind of mean that we would have to create a lot of jobs that aren't actually needed? Not real work. Might be onto something there, right? It's really weird to think about, isn't it? I don't think that you can get there with LLM technology. I think LLMs make individual people better, but I don't think that they reduce the number of people that you, not by much at least. I hope not. Because if we continue to have to live in this nightmare, I just can't stand it, man. I feel like we are facing one of the largest deflationary forces it will ever see, and we're starting it with super high interest rates. Yeah, like there's this issue. You want to flood the market with money. Well, there's multiple sectors of the economy, and there's only one interest rate. That's what's really going on right now. Is that the tech sector is undergoing massive deflation because it's the first one to be affected by AI. But because the overall economy is doing okay, they can't bring the money in. And how long can that last for an industry, right? It could be like this for decades. What I've been going through, maybe that's what I have to deal with for the next decade. That's crazy. I would have played it. Every remote job under the sun. I don't know. So what I do is I apply to all of the ones that are on-site / hybrid in my area first, and then I fill up the rest of the time with remote jobs. But in all honesty, I don't think I have ever heard back. Oh, I take that back. I definitely have. I definitely have heard back and had interviews from remote jobs. So. But I was able to do like maybe a dozen or so applications a day. But it kind of slowed down on Friday. There weren't very many new things on Friday. We'll see the end. Yeah, that's the other thing is I'm doing it more late afternoon because in the morning they haven't posted very many. Apparently people are still going crazy over Pokemon cards at Costco. Man, this has been literally the slowest trading session I've ever seen, I think. I really didn't think that Columbus Day would be that bad. But you know what? It must be worse because of the government shutdown. So that's the other issue. Donnie, you're hurting me with this government shutdown stuff. You're hurting me here. Yep, no volatility at all, yeah. Tomorrow will be an interesting one, I think. Neuralink co-founder presented a new theory of consciousness last week in Tokyo towards consciousness engineering, huh? Okay. So you know what's something that else that's going on too is like okay, so like at work. Well, you don't want to do too much because then you just leave a bunch of empty threads when you leave, right? So I'm kind of chilling. But like the internet is dying, man. Like straight up, the internet is dying. Like Reddit is just sucks now, man. It sucks. There's nothing there. And like, I really am starting to wonder, like, where are the real people are just tuning out? You know? Well, we got 10 minutes left. We'll stick to it. There has been a little bit of a jump. I do feel, well, okay, and the S&P 500 is going here. I kind of do feel like that the Treasuries should still have sold off more in the overnight session. So... There's LinkedIn influencers posting, I manifested my dream job. No, you didn't manifest it, Kelly. You had a referral and a rich uncle. What would you even do at a job for? Just use it to say, yeah. Well, you know what? The funny thing is that like in the mornings I've been busy because like stuff will break or whatever. I don't think that they're going to beg for me to come back, but I don't think that the person that comes after me is going to have an easy time of it. I think for what they're paying him for, you're probably going to get somebody that's going to have a rough time. But that's okay, I guess. You'll find that'll be lots of opportunity to grow for them. So like one of the issues that happened is the one of the applications wasn't logging things in a format that Google Cloud Platform understood. So it was outputting errors, and GCP wasn't recognizing them as such and triggering off alerts. And there's something in there that like it shouldn't be an error, but it is, and it's going off constantly now because of that. So they're going to have to fix that. I think that if they get to where they should be, which is like making releases maybe even every week, that your site reliability engineers or whatever are going to have a lot to do. Networking is not as useful as it was years ago. Unless you're related to the owner of a company /CEO, it's not going to make as big of an impact as it did years ago. It definitely doesn't hurt being long-term to have good connections with prior coworkers, but short-term, it's not giving as much of an edge in securing a job. There are many other overqualified candidates applying for the same role. Yeah, that's what I've found as well. Like, I need to network. I need to network to find other people to build a company. That's what I think I need to do. And is the company trading software? Maybe. Maybe. I think that might be a hard sell in some cases, but the cloud is the most overrated endeavor. I don't know. I think that the move to the cloud makes sense. It's just that most companies did it poorly. You know what's the interesting thing about this is people don't understand what software engineering actually is. People think that software engineering is just writing code, but that's not what software engineering is about. Software engineering is about writing code at scale. How do you build these huge systems and still be able to wrap your head around them and still be able to manage and maintain them as they become more and more complex? Because it doesn't take very much to get a set of systems that is beyond the scope of what one person can keep in their head. That's ultimately your problem. And when we were doing on-premise stuff, it basically was getting to the point where most organizations simply didn't have good enough engineers in the data center itself to really do it effectively. So offloading that onto somebody else makes a lot of sense. And it is pricey, but you come in and you do it well. But then the issue is most companies aren't doing it well because, one, nobody knew what they were doing in the first place. And then two, they didn't, they weren't willing to pay for somebody that did have the experience. So I think that there should be a lot of opportunity in the cloud still. I don't think that this moving off of the cloud thing makes sense, except for certain types of organizations. Isn't the same difference? Couldn't a big fire end both? Wait, what are you talking about? Well, I don't know what makes all different cloud just a server backend. Well, so you have you're just so you have to deal with all of the servers. You have to deal with the network for the servers. Then you have to deal with the virtualization software that's on the servers. And then you have to deal with the applications themselves still. Right? So with the cloud, you only have to deal with the applications themselves and deploying them. And the tools that you get to work with are pretty good now. Took us a while, but I think that we're getting to a place where like there's a good software stack that's starting to become standard. Use Grafana for your monitoring, and then Terraform for your code deployment parts. Moving to the cloud has made it more difficult to extract useful information. Well, that's the difficulties of distributed applications, but I don't think that that's a cloud problem. That's a microservices problem. And most big companies do actually need microservices. So you just, again, that's why you need engineers. Because software engineering is really about coding at scale. And everybody in management and stuff seems to think that it's just coding. No, it's not. And then you don't get the experienced engineers that really know what they're doing, then your application doesn't scale. And then you're kind of like, well, why are we spending so much on the cloud and this and that? It's because you hired people that don't know what they're doing. There's got to be, I really hope that there is this mass amount of investment that's ready to happen, that just requires lower interest rates for it to happen, and then we'll be back into a normal economy. I really hope it's like that, because like the way things are right now really sucks, and I don't see any end in sight for it, and I just hate it. And yeah, I'm not waiting around. I'm doing my own thing. If you know anybody that is a software engineer, out of work, wants to write stuff in Rust, send them my way. Or maybe even if they want to do stuff in the cloud, maybe we make a contracting firm for the cloud. Okay, I gotta get going, guys. I will see you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent.